right. 3, 2, 1.
What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
I feel like I haven't seen you forever.
I know. I haven't seen you in 2 days, and it's like
with all the workouts
Yeah.
and so.
That literally made a difference, by the way. Like
Yeah.
not doing the workouts Monday and Wednesday.
No, I
could feel a difference.
Yeah, I can too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the Connector Dive
Yeah,
podcast.
welcome everyone.
Yeah.
So today, what's the topic? I'm gonna let you introduce the
Yeah,
topic since it was
so-
your idea.
It was kind of interesting because it started as one thing, and then it kind of shifted.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're going to be talking about today is rules and ethics.
Okay.
So basically, I'll set up the premise, and then we'll kind of get into it a little bit.
Cool.
We have rules,
Mm-hmm.
and we have ethics that go behind the rules. So rules are not a bad thing. Rules are a very good thing. We need
Absolutely.
rules,
Yeah.
right? But rules tend to support a superior ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And
So there's a superior ethic, and usually people create rules out of that. Like in
rules.
order to live by this thing,
right,
do these things.
follow these rules,
Yep.
and you'll get this superior ethic.
Mm-hmm.
The trouble with that is when people start to put weight, they take the rules, and the rules become
the
the
ethic.
superior ethic. And that's where I think there's a lot of disagreement, and frankly within our own culture here, of a rule becoming a superior ethic.
Yeah.
I think a good example of this is when somebody, within the LDS faith, for example, there's, you have somebody drinking a rock star, like a 24-ounce rock star.
Yeah, an energy drink.
An energy drink that's terrible for them,
Yeah.
has all these terrible chemicals, horrible. And then they look down at somebody who's drinking a cup of coffee to start their morning.
Yeah, like I'm righteous, you're not, because
Yeah.
I'm following the ethic
Right,
that has these specific rules of what you can and can't consume,
right.
and you're not, because when,
Yeah.
when this was written, energy drinks weren't really a thing.
Yeah.
And when the individuals and when the leaders in the church decided to be specific, energy drinks didn't exist.
Yeah.
And since then, no one's decided to be that
Yeah.
specific to say no, not these things.
Which
not
I
these things, not
actually
these
think the creation of rules are, especially too many rules. It's like when we look back to the law of Moses times, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can only take so many steps on a Sunday. Where did that stem from? The superior ethic was Sunday is a time
Day-
for
a day
you
of
to
rest.
focus on your soul, not your body,
Mhm.
not your business. It's a time for you to reflect, to maybe not do as much.
Yeah.
Okay, well then you can only take 1,000 steps, right? That was a rule that, and then what happened with that? So that's a good example because it's like obviously
people were
ridiculous.
Like,
today,
how do you
right?
keep the Sabbath day holy?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And someone who was in a position of leadership said, well, maybe they were like, well, this is what it means to me. Like, I
Yeah.
created this rule for myself personally.
Right.
Because it helps me to be accountable.
Right.
I decided that I don't take more than this steps.
Right.
Personally, that works really great for me. And then all of a sudden it gets passed
Yeah.
generation, and then all of a sudden that's the rule.
It's
How
the
do you
rule.
keep the Sabbath day holy?
And then not only that,
You can
but
only
then,
take this many
but
steps.
then you can look at somebody else who isn't following that rule, who may be following the superior ethic. Like, let's say, what I find interesting is you could see someone who is overweight, like clearly doesn't take care of their temple, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't take care of their body.
Yeah.
Drinking an energy drink. Look at somebody who has done a great job, like maybe they follow a strict regimen, they eat really well, and then coffee is a part of their diet
Yeah.
to better take care of their body.
Because they tried it and they felt the effects.
But that person, while drinking the energy drink, can look down on the person not following the rule, because the rule becomes the ethic.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's the classic like letter of the law versus spirit of the law type
yeah.
of thing, and I think so many people get not trapped because there is truth to you have to follow the letter of the law sometimes in order to understand the spirit of the law.
Yeah.
It's difficult to just bypass the letter and be like, I'm just going to live by the spirit.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you do have to try the specifics, but if the law in and of itself becomes the end, becomes the ethic, then it doesn't give leeway for an individual to try something and say, do I feel like this fits in with the spirit of the law? Do I feel like this fits in with the superior ethic, or does it not? Yeah. For me personally, because our bodies all react to different things in different ways. Yeah. And I think that's an important part of life.
Yeah. Well, and the reason that this is so important to me personally is because for a long time, I allowed following rules. I allowed the rules to be my ethic. Yeah. And because of that created disconnection between me and a loved one who ended up passing away. It wasn't anything hostile or anything like that. Like, we just slowly started to see each other less because he wasn't following the rules.
Yeah, because your lifestyle is disagreeing.
And he obviously, like, I think where he was coming from is he's like, I don't want to push something on someone else. Yeah. Because I'm not following the rules. But he was following the superior ethic really well. And so it's like, for me, I put all of this strength in the rule following. And then when he passed away, I realized how stupid that was. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the rules had no bearing. Yeah. Had no strength for me. Because I placed I'm following the rules, I'm being a good person, versus I'm following this ethic, I'm following this belief. Therefore, there's the superior ethic, for example, with something like the word of wisdom, right? Mm-hmm. Is your body's a temple. It's been given to you for free. Take care of it. You only get one. Yeah. You don't get to try again.
This is the body you've been given to experience this life. Yeah. So you might as well take care of it so that you can experience life to the fullest.
Right. And not only that, but there's biological as well as spiritual implications, right? Mm-hmm. The biological ones are, first, let's say you don't take care of your body, right? You let yourself go. You eat junk food. You indulge in foods that don't nourish your body, right? And drinks that don't do the same either. Mm-hmm. Then not only can that hurt you in the short term, it can hurt you in the long term. Absolutely. And it can hurt you if the wheels come off, then you're screwed. Yeah. Like someone who hasn't taken good care of themselves, if the government shut down tomorrow, they're gone. Yeah. They're the first to go because they can't run, they can't fight, they can't.
Yeah, if zombie apocalypse happened, they're the first ones to get eaten. Yeah. Not only do they represent the most meat, but they're just slow.
They're just slow.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I think that's the extreme, obviously. Right. But the idea being that an individual who takes care of their body is more prepared. Yeah. More prepared for any situation that would require some sort of physical capability.
And I think that's socially, spiritually, and physically.
I think it's emotionally too.
Emotionally as well.
Spirits, all of it, because everything plays into your self-image. Yeah. And in my line of work, doing life coaching, what I've realized is, shame is a plague. Yeah. It's a plague. Yeah. And it causes individuals to not be able to talk to themselves very kindly. And that decays every aspect of an individual's life. If you don't love yourself, it's going to impact you financially, it's going to impact you professionally, socially, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all around. Yeah. And I think taking care of yourself physically, that comes naturally out of the relationship of self-love. Yeah. And I think that's, take care of your temple because it's the only one you've got, and if you really love yourself, then
you'll take care of yourself. Yeah. And so that's the superior ethic.
That's the superior ethic. But the rules that come out of it oftentimes blur the superior ethic. Yeah. Because then the rules become the end in and of themselves, and then people are like, well, what's wrong with coffee? Yeah. We've gone and we've researched these things, and we've been able to find some of the positive effects that it can have on a person physically. Sure, it does have caffeine. They've been noticed that it can be addictive. Yeah, there are individuals who definitely I need this in order, and so, but that doesn't necessarily speak to, I think people look at that and they're like, well, therefore that thing is evil. Yeah. It's no, it's a tool that can be used too much.
Totally.
It can definitely be a tool that's used too little.
Yeah.
But it can be used too much, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the substance itself is evil, but that the practice needs to be adjusted.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I shared a story with you before we started this that I think pretty well illustrates this example. So there was a guy, he had just gotten married, and his wife was cooking dinner, and she cut the ends off her ham before she put it in the oven. And he's like, why did you do that? Like, that's a little weird. And she's like, oh, it makes it taste better. He's like, it does? You know? Like, she's like, yeah, I've done it since I was a kid. He's like, okay. So then he goes to like a family gathering with his in-law, with his mother-in-law, and she did the same thing. They had ham again. This is like over a couple of years. They had ham, and he's like, she cut the ends off the ham before she put it in the oven, right? Yeah. He's like, why did you do that? She's like, it makes it taste better. Mm-hmm. Right? And he's like, that's so strange. Okay. So then he meets his grandma, right? She cuts the ends off the ham. This is like Thanksgiving dinner. And he's like, why do you do that? She's like, it makes it taste better. He's like, holy cow, this is so crazy. Like, he's now gone back.
You keep getting this answer, and you're like, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. Because to me, it looks like you're literally taking off edible portions of the ham that is good, and you're throwing it away.
Yeah. And then he finally, his great-grandma, right, that he had married in, his great-grandma-in-law, they ended up going, I guess she lived out of state or something, but he ended up meeting her, and she was cooking ham. This is like they've been married for quite a while by this point. And he sees her, cuts off the ends of the ham before she puts it in. He goes, hey, why do you cut the ends off the ham? She's like, it's the only way it'll fit in my oven. So the superior ethic would be, this makes the ham taste better. The rule is, cut the ends off the ham.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, there is a disconnection between cutting the ends off the ham to make it taste better and grandma, who made good ham, made the ham taste good. She cut the ends off so she could fit it in her oven.
Because that's the way you make it taste good, is you have to cook it, and the only way she could cook it is to cut the ends off so it fit. But the lines get blurred. You cut the ends off to make it taste good.
Right.
Like, no, there's got to be a detail. There's got to be a detail we're missing here.
Yeah.
No, I think that absolutely applies, and I when you told me about this topic and you told me that story, I started thinking about areas in my life where it's applied.
Yeah.
And I thought about my own personal story, with the idea professionally of, okay, Logan, I was taught growing up that if you get good grades in school, then you can go to a good college. Yeah. And if you go to a good college and get good grades in college, then you can get a good job. And if you get a good job, then, you'll be able to one day get into a very good business program, and then you'll be able to get good grades there, and then you'll be able to get a really great job.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is in some ways, at least today, I feel like that's the rules. Right. That were built out of a superior ethic of better yourself.
Yeah.
Learn how to give value to the world. And then all of a sudden some individuals got together and they're like, well, how do we help systemize this entire experience of learning how to better yourself? Well, we'll help the people better themselves in the areas of math and science and social studies and all these different things, and we'll create these criteria whereupon we'll be able to judge them to say if they've learned the material well enough.
Right.
And then all of a sudden that becomes the basis with which we determine people who are able to be employed.
Right.
And that works for a time. But let's be honest. Does a college degree now say whether or not a person's employable?
No.
It really doesn't.
Not
and I think
close.
We're starting to realize that experience is just as important, if not more important, than education.
Yeah.
And I was just having this conversation last night with my fiance. It's like, how much of high school do you really remember that you were taught? Yeah. How much of it do you ever use?
Yeah.
Why did we spend the time doing it? I get that it's great to have kids learn math and whatever, how to write
There's
cursive.
Some social aspects.
Sure, it's great. But I was like, there used to be a system where an individual at a young age would say, I want to do this job, or I want to try this job.
Yeah.
They would go to an individual who has that job and they would apprentice for them for a time to determine whether or not they liked that job. And the entire educational system came out of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at what point do we start to look at it and say, are we fulfilling the superior ethic that this entire system grew out of? Or has the system become the ethic in and of itself and we're just doing it because it's what we've always done?
Right.
Like I was literally thinking yesterday, am I going to tell my son to go to college? Because based on my experience, it didn't get me what I wanted.
Right.
I got a degree in Russian, which was absolutely worthless. I got a job in customer service, which I absolutely hated. And I believed that I was stuck there because that's what security is.
Yeah.
Right? You have this even superior ethic around security.
Right.
You get a job, it gives you a paycheck, you get a 401k, you get health insurance, you get one day you're able to buy a house. But I think what we've seen over time is that these systems that people have put so much trust in are not what they claim to be. I mean, the mortgage crisis happens and people are like, are homes as safe as an investment as we thought they were?
Right.
That was the thing everyone taught, like, buy a home, buy real estate, buy this. And it's like, there's truth to it.
Totally.
There's a superior ethic underneath it, but the rule doesn't necessarily always hold out.
Right.
In extreme cases especially.
Well, and it's kind of funny that you bring that up because for a long time, so school did not work for me.
Yeah.
The whole experience.
No, and I think I would love to hear your side of that.
So I dropped out of college after 6 weeks because I was spending my own money. I just dropped like almost $5,000, books plus tuition. I was sitting in a class because I was like, oh, this is a good investment. Like I'll be able to, and I'm literally paying out of pocket, right, money that I worked really hard to earn. And I was sitting in an English class, and he's making me learn how to write in a specific way for him.
Yeah.
And so I raised my hand. I'm like, how am I going to use this? Yeah. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, how does this translate to the marketplace? I don't understand.
Am I going to have to write emails in this way?
Yeah, like, is there any way that this translates? He's like, no, well, throughout all of college, you're going to have to write this way. I'm like, So I have to learn
I have to learn a skill so that I can thrive in this setting?
Yeah, in this setting, but it's not going to translate to anything outside of this? And he's like, no. That was my last class.
You're like, why?
Why are we cutting the ends off the ham? Yeah, I went and tried to get my money back. They wouldn't give me my money back. It was past the time that I could do that. I dropped all of my classes, and I never went back. Yeah. Actually, that's not true. I went back to hit on girls. That's the only reason I was there.
You're like, that has utility.
Yeah. I'm like, there are girls there. And I was single at the time.
This college experience, it doesn't necessarily make employable people, but it absolutely draws in some very attractive people.
Yeah. So I'm going to utilize it
I'm going to utilize it for that.
Well, and it was, that was the best thing I've probably ever done. Like, and frankly, like, high school was a lot the same for me. Like, so if I got a D, I got grounded when I was a kid, when I was in high school and junior high. So if my class, like if I asked a question like that in that class when I was in high school, like I had no way out. Yeah. So what I would do is get a C-. I would literally like get 70% on the dot.
Oh, man.
Or 60, because if it went 69, then I'm D+. So I'm like 70%. I got 70% on the dot. And then I would have other classes where I could see, like, I started thinking, so bringing up the high school experience, I had a few classes that I still think about today. Mm-hmm. One of them was Ancient World Civilizations. I think about that all the time. That power corrupts and ultimate power corrupts, or absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
And because that was the main thing. And guess what? I still think about that. That still has value.
Because it's applicable.
Like, my history classes still had value because they had stories that I could learn from. Literally everything else, besides maybe some art and learning, like, negative space and a few things that way, everything else is gone.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I run into as a parent now is it's like, and it's funny because so I used to I was in sales and I would interview guys all the time. I would literally do like at least between 10 to 15 interviews a week for like 6 months, right? So I got to interview kids over and over and over again. And these are all guys that are going to college. They're trying to move forward in life. They're 18 to 22-year-olds, right?
Looking for a good job that will pay for school.
Right.
So they don't have to work usually while they're in school.
And I'll never forget this. I remember I had this kid that came in, and this happened on a regular basis, but this is the one that I think about the most. This kid came in, and we're talking about the job. We're talking about what he could do here. We're going back and forth. And then I just, I'm like, so what are your goals? Like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I want to correctly understand, like, how you're going to provide value and then how I can provide value for you so that you can be a good employee. So I need to know where you're going. Yeah. That's the way I would always preface it. I'm like, so what do you want to do? It's like, I want to be a doctor. I'm like, awesome. Why? He's like, well, and he sat there silent for like 2 minutes. And he's like, sorry, no one's ever asked me. I'm like, well, why do you want to be a doctor? He's like, I want to help people. I'm like, you don't have to be a doctor to help people. Why do you want to be a doctor? And like, he couldn't answer it. Mm-hmm. And it was literally, this kid's he's graduating with his bachelor's.
He's
he's like 22 years old, pre-med. No one had ever asked him why he wanted to be a doctor. That's insane. Yeah. That, like, follow these rules. Seriously. And you'll get what you want. And it's like, the superior ethic is you have something to give. Give what you have.
Learn it, develop it, give it.
Grow it, give it.
Fully.
And then you will receive. Yeah. You will receive what you want because you provide the value.
And I think it's important to say that I believe that school is a worthy pursuit. Totally. If an individual is like, I want to get to this destination, I want to get to point B, and it 100%. Passes through school, go to school.
Yeah, do it.
But if you're doing what I did, and I even to some degree I even knew what B was. Yeah. But I was so attached to it. I was like, I want it so bad. And I didn't know why. Yeah. It was just, well, this is a way I can. I feel like this is something I could be good at. This is a way I can make money and provide for my family. That was really it. Other than that, and I created this illusion almost in my mind that I didn't need to be in a career that was satisfying. Yeah. Yeah. That I could sacrifice that part of me on behalf of my family.
Totally. And how many just sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Not at all. How many fathers are doing that right now? They think like, well, I have things that I want to do, but I can't pursue those. And then they make a martyr of themselves, which is like, I totally respect it.
That's why they come home, they sit down, and they're just like, I deserve this.
Yeah, I deserve to take a break. Oh. And it's like, and I've felt that before. Oh, I felt the soul-crushing, like soul-crushing experience within corporate America. Like I was an executive at 3 different companies. Like I knew how to work the ladder. Yeah. Right? And get the security. And it almost killed me. Yeah. Like it was like it crushed my soul.
Well, that's the other thing too is security it's a superior ethic. It is something that we're all looking for. Totally. At a fundamental level, you talk about the hierarchy of needs. Yeah. We are all looking for security. We're all looking for food, for a place to live, for some sort of love. Like, we're looking for that. Yeah. But again, when the rules come out of that superior ethic and people say, well, in order to get that, in order to get the home, in order to get the food, you got to go through these steps and you got to do these things specifically. And it completely, it destroys self-creativity. Not completely, because there are individuals who are able to thrive in a situation where they have an employer. Right. And they're able to bring value to that company and they get value back. Like, totally. I don't want to shit on the whole system. No. Because there are definitely people who they love what they do. They work in a great system. They feel that security that comes from the paychecks that come consistently. Right. But for me personally, I was in my first job out of college. I had that security, and it wasn't a lot. I was making like $38,000 before taxes.
Yeah.
Which wasn't what I expected.
Yeah.
Wasn't what I was told when I was in high school, and people were like, well, the average salary for an individual with a college degree right out of college is around 45. And I was like, okay, 45.
Yeah.
38. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then I ask, well, what are the steps to move up? Oh, they look like this. And I was like, okay, well, I think I can do that. And then all of a sudden, when I got to the point where I was about to move up, a new CEO was brought into the company. And, as all CEOs, they're looking to create as quick of a spike in income as possible.
Totally.
They want to show the shareholders very quickly, I'm the right person for this job.
Right. They want
I can create value right away.
Yeah.
And what's the quickest way?
Fire.
To create. Yeah. It's not to create new products.
No.
R&D is
It's to lower costs.
Expenses.
Yeah.
And so you look into things like outsourcing. You look into things like, well, what things are we doing here in America that we're paying $38,000, which really isn't that much, but it's still way more than you would pay an individual to do it in another country.
Totally. And
so all of a sudden he calls this big, town hall with the entire company, and he announces that they're going to lay off 1,500 people and that they're going to relocate the hub from Omaha, Nebraska to Chicago.
Jeez.
And all of a sudden, every employee is like, security, boom, out the window.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to have this salary. I'm not going to have these paychecks coming in. I'm not going to have these medical benefits. What happens to my 401k? And we didn't even know, like, what departments.
Yeah.
But all advancements stopped.
Yeah.
They said no one can advance to the next level.
Yeah.
And it was just like, everything I was promised and everything I came here for, everything I went to high school for and got good grades for, everything I went to college for is just like, rug pulled out.
Yeah.
And it was probably a naive perspective on my end, because I could definitely go out and find other jobs.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it was like, it's kind of like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, I did the work. Give me the thing.
Right.
I'm entitled to it because I did what you said.
Right.
And I think that's where so much of this entitlement, especially in our generation, comes from, is because we were told.
Yeah.
If you follow the rules, if you play by the system, then you will get the house. You will get the security. You will get the 401k. You will get retirement benefits, which is a lie.
Right.
Social Security is not going to exist.
No.
You and I will never be able to retire underneath that.
No.
And that's the thing, is we can sit here and whine and complain about the system all we want.
Yeah.
But we bought in.
Yeah.
We played by those rules. And eventually every person, I think, has to decide, am I going to continue to live by the rules? Right. Or am I going to discover for myself what the superior ethic really was behind all of this and find out what that means for me?
Right.
By doing things that are scary.
Yeah.
That go outside of the conventional system. But when you're willing to go outside of the conventional system, you open yourself up to the opportunity to get unconventional results.
Right.
And that's what we're all looking for.
Well, and one thing I love about this is like the idea of security, right? Mm-hmm. You're placing your faith in someone else. Like, you want to find security right here.
That's the only place.
That's the only place, and that's
if you think you can find even if you think you can even find security in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, again, I've been there.
Anything can happen.
I went on a mission. I went to and I'm not saying these things are terrible. No, I'm just saying my own experience. This was my own experience. I was active. I was living by the commandments as best as I could. I was definitely falling short, and there was a lot of like self-shame that came with that, especially around pornography and things like that. One thing I
think, like, so I don't mean to cut in, but
no, not at all.
You were following the rules, because I feel like the commandments are separate from they are a set of rules, but they're pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. And they're pretty like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not, right?
Yeah.
Those
but
things.
But if you live in a culture that's constantly creating new commandments.
Right. New rules.
New rules.
Yeah.
And again, they're doing it very well intentioned to help individuals to live by the superior ethic. The
superior ethic is awesome.
Yeah, they're trying to systemize it so that they can throw it out to the general public and say, this will work for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say there's no such thing.
No.
There's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all approach to life.
Right.
I think that there are very powerful underlying principles, ethics,
right,
like love, like honesty, like peace, like power, truth.
Yeah.
And they operate in certain ways, but they don't look the same for every single one of us. Totally. They just don't. Because the truth is, you took a similar path as me, right? Follow right. the rules, live the commandments, like go on a mission, get married in the temple, and that's worked out for you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it, and it's not because of the rules itself, but it's because of how you have been developed.
Right.
By living your life that way. It's the character that you've cultivated. And I've definitely had that experience too. I've cultivated a character, but I was so attached to the outcome.
Yeah.
I was attached to what I felt entitled to. That if I did X, Y, and Z, that I was entitled to a happy marriage. I was entitled to a happy life. I was entitled to a fulfilling job. Right. I was entitled to feeling like the father that I wanted to be. And when I didn't, the first place I looked, just because of naturally what my relationship was with religion and with God,
right.
the first place I looked was up at God, and I was like, you lied to me. Why would you do that? I'm your son, you're supposed to care about me, you're supposed to love me infinitely, and I feel like you lied. But the truth is all things can work for our good. Yeah. Even when we buy into rules, we buy into systems, we have the capacity to make all things work for our good, and we have the capacity to find the underlying principles that make life really meaningful. And for me personally, when I kind of detached from all of that, I was like, if this is what I kind of got to this place where, like, if this is what spirituality looks like, then I don't want it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go see what it looks like over here. But when I opened myself up to that, I was able to accept myself and then accept God for who he is. And then things started to have a completely different superior ethic. And the superior ethic became, Logan, you are an agent. You have been given agency, which is the power and the capacity and the opportunity to choose. Yeah. And because you have that power and capacity and opportunity, agency is what you can use to create. Yeah. Create whatever life you want. Really, truly. Yeah. And you can make mistakes, and you can go, you can cross thresholds that maybe you would have thought were bad, and you can experience those things, and you can ask yourself questions. What is this getting me? Yeah. Do I want this result moving forward? Is there anything that I can use this tool for that can help me in my day-to-day life towards the ends that I want? And life just becomes a little freer when you live that way. When you live by the superior ethic as opposed to the rules. Yeah. And I'm not saying throw out the rules. No. Like, definitely they inform decisions. Yeah. Absolutely.
But the point is understanding, like, I believe that my soul has always been one that fought against controlling, manipulating, forcing people to fall in line. I think, like, that offends me to my core. Mm-hmm. Like, to the point that I'm literally willing to die for that belief. Like, I would rather die free than live enslaved. Yeah. 100%.
Like Braveheart.
Yeah. Like, it's just, and it's like so deep, it's in my bones. Like, when I see it brings something up in me that, like, makes me want to fight. Like, makes me want to fight for it.
I think that's the part of you that really, that's why you love history. Yeah. And stories, is because, Norse mythology, Vikings, all that, your heritage. Right. You feel very empowered by that.
Totally. And
they were individuals who, they didn't necessarily live by a very strict code of conduct. They lived by principles. And they were believers. Right. Like, they believed. Totally.
Well, they were ready to go to Valhalla. Yeah. Like, speaking of the Vikings specifically, we can talk about all different types of histories, but it's like they believed in an ethic of dying courageously. Mm-hmm. Like, there's an old Irish saying.
There's nothing greater than dying courageously in battle.
Yeah. Well, because that's the far edge of what, like, of a superior ethic. It's like the sharpest point of it. And there's this old saying. It's actually an Irish saying, so you'll like this. Mm-hmm. It was don't shit your pants until you're dead.
Yeah.
Like, and they would say that before they went into battle. It's like, if you die, then, then you can let it go.
Yeah. But
before that, there's like a courageous, there's a heroic, what am I thinking of? It's
like a code.
Yeah. Of
how to live courageously.
Yeah. Like you're still breathing, you can still fight for it. And then there's
no reason to crap your pants because you're not dead yet.
Yeah. And so then, because that puts the security, rather than putting all of your security, I mean, we live in an age where it's like, you don't have to put your security in the system. You don't have to put your security in and put all your cards on someone else giving you a paycheck. Mm-hmm. And we live in a time that is more powerful than it ever has been. The individual has become more sovereign and able to express their sovereignty more than ever before.
Yeah.
And so we have an opportunity to, rather than saying, oh, I'm going to follow these rules and it'll give me this result, but say, like, what's the superior ethic? Now I get to use my agency as a free and choosing being and create.
Yeah.
And like that's terrifying, because if I fail, guess what that means?
Then it's on me.
It's
you
on
can't
me.
blame the rules.
Yeah.
You can't blame the system.
You can't blame someone else.
I mean, you can try, but
yeah. But there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it. So it's like, it's on you. If you fail, that's all on you.
Well, and there's something about that that's incredibly empowering, though, because and I've fallen into this trap. But when you look at your life and you see problems, and you're able to assign the problems to other people, it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I'm not the one responsible for my own life because
yeah,
it's crap because of this person.
Well, and what I love about this is this goes exactly back to the rules versus the ethic.
Yeah.
That person's not following the rules.
Yeah.
So they're bad and I'm good.
Yeah.
And if they and it's so just it's such an easy way to label someone as bad and to elevate yourself without any work.
Why does every employee, I mean, I'm just going to come and call it what it is. How many people love their boss?
Yeah. Yeah.
And either there's just an influx of shitty bosses, or that relationship in and of itself creates a situation where it's easy to say, my life sucks and it's their fault.
Right.
But I think the moment you do that, you say, well, that person they're the reason for all of my problems.
Right.
What you're essentially doing is saying, because they're the source of all my problems, they're also the source of all my solutions. They need to change.
Yeah.
My job needs to change. My spouse needs to change. My paycheck needs to change. Like, we can look at these things and we can say, if I could just have this, when in reality, if you would just shift the responsibility, the ability to respond back to the individual, the only person who has the capacity to make any change in your life, which is you.
Yeah.
And take responsibility for things, then you not only are the source of your problems, which is very scary.
Yeah.
But you become the source of your solutions.
Yeah, and you're able to figure it out. And it allows you to move forward in a heroic way. It allows you to take up your cross, to bear your burden.
You become the hero of your own story.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of all of those stories you read in the Bible. You read like and then there's and you have to constantly battle yourself, because you can very easily, let's say you start to become successful, then you're running into another ethic, like the Tower of Babel, right? The Tower of Babel in the Bible wasn't evil, mm-hmm. right? That doesn't matter. God doesn't care if someone's trying to build a tower to make it to heaven, right? What the problem is the individuals fell in love with their own creation to the point that they were taking all the credit for it. And when you see that, what I find interesting, I feel like that whole story is an archetype of what happens in an organization.
We created the pathway to heaven.
Right. And then what happens within the organization is people are talking, but they can't hear each other.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
And that's like the Tower of Babel, right? Everyone, all of a sudden, there's all these different languages. It's like they could have been speaking the same language. They just didn't understand each other.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
And so there is, once you've taken that responsibility, you started to experience those results, there is another ethic that you run into, and that never ends.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're always going to level up to new ethics and new ideas, new concepts that make you uncomfortable.
Yeah. That
you'll be afraid of because you've never experienced them. The outcomes aren't predictable, right? The reason why individuals love the idea of going to a job they can put in their time and they can get their paycheck is because it's predictable.
Yeah.
I make this much an hour. No one can take that away from me. If I put in the hours, I get the money. It's predictable.
Right.
We love things that are predictable. That's why the rules are created. Mm-hmm. It's because we believe, hey, if you will not drink beer, if you'll not drink coffee, if you'll avoid these things, you will run and not be weary, and you'll walk and not faint.
Right.
When in reality, that might not necessarily automatically translate into it. It could be part of it, part of the equation.
Right.
But when you take part of the equation and then you shine light on it and you say, this is the whole truth. Live by this and nothing else, and you will run and not be weary. You're actually disempowering people.
Yeah.
You're telling people, don't trust yourself and your intuition and your own beliefs, your own ability to make choices and to make mistakes and to learn from them and grow. No, trust this. Yeah. Trust this rule.
Yeah. Well, and what I find interesting, bringing that one up specifically, is most people don't read the first verse.
Yeah.
That says this isn't a commandment.
Yeah.
It's a set of principles.
Well, the person who made it a commandment didn't read that.
Right. And it's and that's,
and again,
that's
well-intentioned. It's
totally,
all well-intentioned.
Totally.
Because they look, these leaders of these organizations.
This isn't like ripping on.
Yeah.
It's ripping on the entire principle of you have a superior ethic. Rules are created out of that ethic. Those rules are not the ethic.
Yep.
Those matter so little that they're basically borderline like insignificant.
Yeah. The rules have historically, like if we're just going to be honest,
mm-hmm.
the rules have historically for a large number of people helped them to get a part and to live a part of the superior ethic.
Right.
But the reality is information changes over time. There was a time when people thought smoking tobacco was good for you, and then there was a time when people understood that it's not. Right? Things change. There was a time when some individuals believed drinking coffee was bad for you.
Yeah.
And now some things have come to light where we're actually recognizing that, some coffee is good for you. It has the, I just forgot the word, but like wine, coffee, they have antioxidants that help in certain functions with regards to your heart in particular. But people look at that and they're like, they use the rules and they say, well, we can avoid all of this fact that is coming out because we know the truth. The truth is that coffee is evil.
Yeah.
And so it starts to blur the lines.
And where it becomes so dangerous is when the rules supersede that ethic. Like when you cross that line, you've crossed into a very dangerous territory. And this isn't just with rules like this, right? Like a good example of this is happening within. No, like it's happening within our lifetimes right now. Look at like SJWs, right? Social justice warriors. If you're not following the rules that we've created, you are a terrible person.
Yeah.
You disagree with the way I think. Not only am I not going to listen to you, I'm going to try to destroy you.
Yeah. I'm gonna label you as something that causes me to be able to just ignore everything you say. You're a bigot, you're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're this, and then all of a sudden everything that comes out of your mouth can be disregarded.
And not only everything that comes out of your mouth, but your own actions. Like your actions can be really good. Like a good example of this was the guy at Yale. I don't know if you heard about this, but professor, this was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. It was in October. It was Halloween was coming up. And all of these students started saying like, you can't wear this, you can't wear that, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't wear this. And one of the professors, there's two professors that are there. They're husband and wife. Mm-hmm. And this guy's wife wrote something that just said, hey, like, things mean different things to different people. And if someone wants to wear something offensive, we should allow them to do so. Yeah. You would have thought she said, like, Hitler was a good guy. Because what happened was, anyway, the husband ended up being outside when this, like, mob came to, like, attack his wife. Jeez. And so he's talking to them, and this is a guy who's literally, like, he walked with freaking Dr. King. He had lived an extremely, like an principled activist. Like, he's a good guy. I disagree with a lot of the ways his ideas. Sure. But he's a really good person. Mm-hmm. You can tell he is. Yeah. And the way he's talking with them calmly, and they're screaming at him, like, that is an extreme example of you're not following the rules that we just said are virtuous. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you're a bad no person. Matter, even though you're 60 years old and you spend your entire life trying to help people, that doesn't matter because you said that they can wear offensive costumes. Yeah, and therefore you've just become the representation of everything we're fighting against. Right. When in reality, it's just not true. Yeah. And that's the thing that I feel personally. He ended up having to step down, by the way. That's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, I feel like at the heart of disconnection, for me personally, are lies. Lies are at the heart of disconnection. Things that are they're based in realities that aren't true. Yeah. We tell ourselves things that aren't true. And to me, connection is based in truth. And so if we can, and that's really what I'm concerned with in my own personal life is what is the truth? Yeah. What is the truth? And I don't necessarily care what the facts are. Yeah. I want to know what it looks like in my life. If there's a principle and someone has an idea, like for instance, when I was introduced to meditation. Yeah. It was kind of like it brings with it all these weird things that people do, like energy mantras and all this stuff and chakras. And like, this is strange. Like this is completely different. But when I just got into the practice, when I was just like, okay, whatever everyone else is saying, I don't know if it's true, whatever, but I'm going to just practice it and apply it in my life. I'm going to experience it, and then I'm going to trust myself. Then I was opened up to this beautiful thing, and I'm able to use this tool maybe differently than other people do, but I'm able to use it to live the life that I want to live. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think that's a good place to end. But as always, tell the truth. Tell the truth. Yeah. Thanks. What's up? Hey everybody, thank you so much for listening to our podcast, for being a part of the Connect or Die Nation. Make sure you subscribe to this page, hit that bell so you can get all notifications when we have new podcasts. In the description is all our different social media accounts. You can go and follow us there. And remember to be honest and go out there and connect.